Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Christina Tanaschuk, the executive editor of Homeland Security Today. And today I get to sit down with Craig McIntyre, Vice President and Market Leader, Homeland Security at our GTSC mentor, SAIC. One of our series looking at some of the private sector solutions for border security and other important missions across the Department of Homeland Security. I think most of you, if you've worked in Homeland, you know a little bit about SAIC. We're huge fans because they've been a mentor to HS Today's owner, the Government Technology and Services Coalition, for many years. And they've supported the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for over 20 years. So they were one of DHS's earliest partners. And played a pivotal role in helping the department integrate the systems and missions of 22 separate organizations. Over the past couple of decades, SAIC has provided continuous support across DHS components, including FEMA, TSA, CBP, ICE, and CISA, with services ranging from cybersecurity and IT modernization to emergency preparedness, intelligence integration, and border protection. So, Craig, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your role at SAIC and kind of what you're seeing in the current state of border security? Because there's been a lot of change, new administration, new
Yep.
priorities. What's your view?
So I'll start off with role. Again, market leader for SAIC's Homeland Security market. We partner with agencies, as you mentioned, across the spectrum, whether it be CBP, TSA, S&T, and CISA, really to provide mission integration services to our client. What does that mean? We really combine a deep understanding of what our client's mission is, and we try to pull that together with integrated solutions to help our client in achieving those mission outcomes. So when you ask about the current state of border operations, I just returned from the Border Security Expo, which was out in Phoenix, which was a highly well-attended event. In fact, I don't know if you were there or not, but we had both the border czar and the DHS secretary delivering keynote addresses. And you couple that with a number of very insightful sessions over that two-day event. And I think the takeaway after that week where we were talking basically all week about border is there's been tremendous progress in securing our border. We're seeing numbers, or the CBP is seeing numbers at historic lows with respect to encounters and other metrics that are tracked. But what was really encouraging is almost an increased optimism and focus around a common mission from agencies and departments across, not only within DHS, but even outside DHS. Agencies like CBP, ICE, HSI, and departments such as DOJ and DOD, and even local law enforcement that play a broader role in security. There's such a high degree of collaboration to share and integrate data and solutions quickly to achieve these mission outcomes. And I think it was very encouraging to see from a border operations, we've made tremendous progress. The government's made tremendous progress since January, and that progress is just going to continue going forward. What I thought was particularly encouraging was just the restatement on the importance of both strong industry and government partnerships to meet those mission outcomes on what I think are going to be very accelerated timelines going forward.
So, to meet those accelerated timelines and continue that prioritization of mission, what are some of the key technologies that are being shared across DHS agencies that are making the biggest impact, in your opinion?
So the first one that comes to mind is the use of facial recognition and other biometrics to support identity verification. We've been talking about biometrics in the border security space for as long as I've been involved in it. And we've really seen an uptick. Early on, it was all about fingerprints, and now it's heavily into the use of facial biometrics. For example, CBP has a traveler verification system, or TVS, that provides identity verification services not only to CBP, but across broader agencies as well. It's highly available, it's scalable, highly responsive, that supports all types of use cases that require identity verification, as well as in support of things like border encounters or even airport security. I think as we technologies and solutions are deployed across DHS, and particularly at the edge, it's important to recognize they really have a dual purpose. tend to focus a lot on just the law enforcement side of that mission, so vetting and officer safety. But we also have to take in mind things like the traveler experience, traveler confidence, the experience, and the efficiencies, which sometimes when you look at these solutions are really competing objectives as these technologies roll out across those agencies. Some great examples in those space can include kiosk applications. So for example, years ago down at a port of entry on the southern border in El Paso, we deployed a kiosk-based solution down into that port. And the objective was really twofold: to increase throughput at the port and increase officer safety. And both of those objectives were met. We almost doubled the throughput at that port while allowing those officers that were doing the admissibility decisions to focus clearly on the admissibility aspect and less of the entering documents, for example, or capturing a fingerprint. So I think especially as we roll forward, we're seeing facial biometrics and the use of that roll out across DHS agencies having a huge impact. I think we'll see more and more of those types of technologies and solutions that address both traveler and the law enforcement side as we go forward.
Excellent. And we are seeing a lot of the things that all of us have been talking about for many, many years, just kind of speeding to fruition, which is fantastic. And I'm really happy that you're talking today about kind of all of the things that make that possible. So I'm sure that there are a few hurdles left to integrating or sharing the technology across agencies. What are some of the things we still need to sweep out of the way to make these changes more quickly?
It's interesting when you think about the hurdles on integrating and sharing those technologies. First thing I'll say is they're well known. They have been out there, both government and industry. There's nothing new. In the collaboration, we've been sharing and discussing these hurdles over years. And some of those examples have been, industry proprietary solutions that bring vendor lock-in. How do you break out of that? Sometimes even highly customized and tailored solutions, while they meet a specific mission objective, can't really be lifted and deployed across a broader set of, to address a broader set of solutions. Things like policies that have been implemented that were probably great policies at the time, but now for valid reasons tend to be a little constraining. And then you add on things like interagency agreements and authorizations and constraints about data. Again, here's a list that should be familiar to everyone out there that we've been trying to work through over years to bridge those hurdles and constraints. That being said, as we kind of talked about earlier, significant and very encouraging movement to address some of these hurdles. We've seen evidence of policies that are not only being reviewed, they are being reviewed. We've seen them revised and we've seen them eliminated to align with the mission. Sometimes these are long-standing policies that kept certain activities from occurring, didn't make sense in the overall border security space, and now those are being lifted. We're seeing high degrees of collaboration that across agencies on the sharing of capabilities and data to the likes that I haven't seen before in the last 15 years. Industry is jumping on board in all sorts of areas, and especially with some of the changes, particularly that have been talked about, and just changes in acquisition, where you're going after traditional vendors and non-traditional vendors. There's a much more renewed interest across industry to jump in and not only bridge some of these hurdles, but as these hurdles and these things come down, to take advantage of those and move forward. So I think you have a whole bunch of activity, a whole list of activities and things that are happening and accelerating in this space right now that will jump over, go around, or help drive through some of the hurdles and constraints that have been in place for years.
That's great to hear. And as we've been reading the news almost every day, AI is being utilized to speed many processes.
Yep.
How do you see AI and machine learning evolving in this space?
Well, that's certainly the topic of the day these days is AI. You can't go anywhere without them talking about AI or NML. An important thing to note, at least in the border security arena, AI and ML have been around for a long time. Things in areas of license plate detection and reading, image analysis, and some other applications. So there's a broad familiarity on using some of those technologies in border security type applications forward. What's new is the large language models coming onto the scene. Some may say kind of not so new, but as we look at LLMs and we look at the small and targeted LLMs, particularly those, as they become more mature and they breed confidence in that law enforcement environment, they'll continue to be adapted and deployed. And there are a number of pilots that we're involved in already around some of these small LLMs to focus on specific target and application areas. What are those? What will those be, in my opinion, going forward? A lot will be on increased identity and to identify and detect anomalies in data that range anywhere from X-ray images that are used in support of non-intrusive inspection, image-based object detection, which is becoming more prevalent, whether it's embedded in the cameras or it's embedded in some downstream process. Or even looking at things like inconsistencies in cargo manifests, for example. Does the manifest and the declaration match up? And is there a slight delta there that needs to be looked at, trying to find that needle in the haystack? I think you'll start to see them being applied to look at patterns and trends of data. Where are the smuggling routes? Where we know the primary ones, what about those secondary ones? Or as they shift, being able to figure that out. And where that will really manifest itself is where resources and technologies are applied to provide, using that predictive capability to effectively deploy resources to address that challenge. I think we'll also see a big growth in just natural language interfaces. We all know about Grok and some of these other chat GPT and those other types of technologies. They are being explored, and it's really a way to bring down to that operator and down to the edge capabilities that don't require a whole team of developers behind them to be able to answer questions that they need, do investigative, support their admissibility decisions. And those are a lot of examples about AI that are particularly focused on, let's say, the operator in the field. If you even back it up a little bit, the use of AI to support things like code development and testing, they will play a role, and they play a role by allowing companies like SAIC and others to really deliver and deploy new capabilities faster and cheaper down to the operator. So I think AI and ML are going to play continually strong roles. It is interesting in a law enforcement environment. It has to be a pragmatic approach. Things like hallucinations and some of these other things, you have to get those worked out of the system, because there are law enforcement decisions that are being made or could be made as a result of the outputs of AI and ML.
Absolutely. Your insights are incredible, and it's obviously due to being in this field for a long time. There are a lot of folks at GTSC that certainly understand the market exceptionally well.
Yeah.
What is your kind of final message to DHS leaders about the value of shared technology across agencies?
So great question, and I'll lead off that I believe DHS leaders are well informed on the value of shared technology across their industry agencies. They know their mission, they know their challenges, and they know what they need to tackle that mission. And as we talked about earlier around barriers, they know their barriers and hurdles, and they're taking proactive steps, again, very encouraging, to reduce and eliminate those hurdles going forward. I think from the larger perspective, industry partners like SAIC can help the DHS leaders achieve their mission. And how do we do that? We strive, and at least I know I have strived to really understand their mission intimately in a way, so that I can integrate those people, technologies, and processes into really a technology agnostic way to deliver those solutions. And as a mission integrator, we do the gritty innovation work. We do the technical work to plug those gaps and meet those threats head on. And we'll continue to look for existing capabilities that can be reused, tailored, and shared to quickly deliver mature solutions and capabilities into the field. So I think from an overall message perspective, again, they're well informed. They know what they need to achieve. They know the hurdles. And I think partnering with industry and partnering with companies like SAIC we can really bring the resources to bear to help them achieve that mission in a very fast way. And part of that is going to be sharing technology and reusing technology and adapting technologies that the government has already invested tremendously in to quickly meet a new or an emergent challenge.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. Thank you, Craig, and thank you to your whole team for being great partners to DHS and certainly to HS Today and GTSC. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the conversation.